Hello, my name is Ian Moore. I conduct several walking tours of Sunderland, including Shipyard Girls, Lost Pubs of the 1960s and musical memories of the 60s and the 70s. Today I'm going to talk about some, by no means all, the big stores and shops that are no longer here that I remember from when I was a child. So here we are at the end of Foret Street, the main street in Sunderland. There's been a lot of discussion online and elsewhere about the change in character of the street. Back in the 60s when I was a kid, it was very much the main shopping street of the town, together with High Street West going that way and a bit of John Street. But with the development of the new town centre, which changed into the bridges, and of course internet shopping, people haven't used this street much, and one by one the big shops have closed down. Wilko's just closed 2 or 3 days ago, and already it's completely empty, so we have to wait and see what might happen with that building. Jins itself has a long history. It was founded by a guy called George Jins back in the 1780s down High Street West going towards the docks. That was really the main centre of Sunderland then. It was only in the 20th century that Foret Street etc. became the focal point for shopping. So he moved to Foret Street 1886, and the buildings we can see behind us, obviously they're much newer than that. During the war in 1941 they were both destroyed by Nazi bombers. The one on the right certainly was destroyed by incendiary bombs. I did read that actually the company managed to continue. They got some of the stock out and they rented a place in Homeside and they continued business. So they were very indomitable in them days. A friend of my grandmother's, Mrs. Cruddas they called her I think, she was very good at making clothes. And when the store got bombed, they had something called a fire sale. And it's near Wilson's Timber Yard at the north side of the Weymouth Bridge. And she went there, she bought rolls and rolls of this very thick material, and she made it into siren suits, which were like glorified jumpsuits really that you put on during the night when you had to get up and run across to the nearest air raid shelter. So I think even Winston Churchill had one, not one of Mrs. Cruddas's though. So behind us you can see both sides of what was Jins and what was recently Wilko's. This part was rebuilt in 1953, and the part on the other side not until 1962. I vaguely remember there being a big hole in the ground, a big bomb site where Jameson's pub is now. A year or two after they reopened, something which seemed incredible to me. It was like going to the moon. They built a tunnel between both parts of the store, and it seemed amazing to me. I don't know why. I mean, these days tunnels are 2 a penny, but we had to go down as soon as it opened just to walk through the tunnel to see what it was like. It was quite exciting. They had all sorts of nice things in this side of the store, especially the delicatessen, and we never heard of half of the foodstuffs they had in there. We used to joke about it. One of my friends, Gary, said, "Ian, I'm going to go down, I'm going to buy a fox's lip," and they had a boutique. So around about 13, 14 years of age, we started to get a little bit clothes conscious. I mean, I've never exactly been Beau Brummel like, but I saved me pocket money up and I bought a slightly psychedelic tie for 7 and 6, I think, in late 1967, so I could wear it at the school socials. So behind me you can see Joplin's, which was a very well liked store by my mum and countless other people in Sunderland. It closed in 2010 and it's now a student accommodation. But it had a long history. So like Jins, it started off down High Street West and it moved here in 1956. The area around here, there used to be a big church here, St. Thomas's Church, and where the pub is over the road, 808, this was all completely destroyed. So they rebuilt the Joplin store there in 1956. One thing I remember about it, it had escalators and it had a lift. There were very, very few lifts in Sunderland in the early 60s until they built all the tower blocks and that. And I think I was 18 before I knew how to operate a lift. It sounds ridiculous, but I'd just never really been in one before. They used to have a lot of celebrities coming here. If older fans of Coronation Street remember Minnie Caldwell, she came there once to open something up, and I think Michael Miles from Take Your Pick, he was also there one day. So just behind where I am is the telephone exchange. Until the mid-70s there was a beautiful arcade there, Palmer's Arcade. It had been there for about 100 years and it replaced an earlier arcade. So if you're not sure what an arcade is, it's really like a prototype shopping mall with a glass roof. And there was lots and lots of shops there. I remember buying me auntie a Scorpio plate for her birthday in 1973, which I still have actually. So I'm standing right in the middle of what used to be Liverpool House, which is a very popular department store in Sunderland. It started off in Nile Street, but by 1900 it had been established here. This is High Street West. Without Liverpool House, I don't think I would exist. For the simple reason, in 1912, my mum's mother, she was aged 17 then. She was standing window shopping looking at this blouse, and this young man who'd been looking at her came up and said, "I'll buy you that blouse if you like." And they got chatting on, and they went for it to the cinema, and they eventually got married. So without Liverpool House, as I say, I wouldn't be standing here now. It was very popular. People will remember going to see Santa Claus here, so I certainly did. They had his grotto at Christmas, and I went there several times and sat on his knee. I don't know whether kids are allowed to sit on Santa Claus's knee these days. Later in life, my dad was the Santa Claus at his factory where he worked, Marconi's in Peelaw. I've got the white hair, like, but maybe if I could grow a nice big beard, I could be in line to maintain that tradition. I did read that Liverpool House supplied many of the carpets for the ships that were built on the weir, so that must have been a very lucrative contract. It closed right about 1979, as far as I remember, and as you can see, there's no trace of it anymore. So just behind me to my right there is a shop that most older people will know, Woolworths, known to all and sundry as Woolies. It opened in 1923 and closed 2004. It was quite a cheap shop, so most people could afford to buy something there. One stall that was, well, one department really, that was very popular with kids was Pick and Mix. But some kids, I think, thought it was called Pick and Nick. In the early 60s, they had these monkey dolls that were about this big. They had plastic faces and ears and hands and big boots. And we had one called Jacko. And I remember being in here one day and there was a whole army of them lined up hanging from this rail that looked very ominous. Just across the road there used to be Boots Pharmacy, of course, but they also had a record department at the back. I bought my second ever single there in late 1966. You Keep Me Hanging On by the Supremes, 6 and 10, or about 35p in modern money. So in those days you could really move through the shops a great deal. So Boots had an entrance on the Station Street side. I always imagined a kind of Keystone Cop scenario where the police were chasing somebody. They could run through Boots, run across the road here, run through Woolies, come out on John Street and then run through Joplin's onto St Thomas Street. It probably happens sometime. So just behind where I am now is another very popular store called Blackets. It closed 1972. And just to give you an idea how many people work in these kind of stores, 150 people were made redundant at that time. So it was popular for fashions. I remember, I think 1966, people who remember Ready Steady Go, Cathy McGowan, one of the faces of the 60s, she came here to sort of launch something at that time. Had its own, most of the stores had their own little record booths as well. So that was very popular to get the top 10. They usually had the top 10 in a row, and you just point to the ones that you wanted. So just behind where we are is the last of the big stores I want to talk about, which was Kennedy's. I think it closed down around about early 70s, or to be more accurate, it downsized and it moved to smaller premises in Maritime Place there. I used to go to all these shops with my mum and my aunties and my grandma when I was a kid, standing there while they looked through curtain materials and all the stuff like that. But the main thing about this store, I think Blackets the same, they had those pneumatic tubes. You didn't just pay the shop assistant and get you changed. They put a bit of paper with your money in and it went off up this tube upstairs somewhere to where they got your change together and then put it back in the tube and sent it back down. On Crotery Road, about halfway down on the right, there used to be a shop which many older people will remember called Breckner's. It was one of those shops that sold everything. And to me it was like Poundland on acid. Everywhere you went there was just all kinds of strange stuff on the shelves. Maybe not great quality, but cheap. One item I bought from there, and it lasted for years and years, was a sooty egg cup. So it was a cup and Sooty was there playing cricket, and I think I had it for 10 years or something before I dropped it on the floor. Yes, so it's one of those much lamented shops, Mr. Breckner's. So just behind where I am, there's a very popular women's clothes store called Books Fashions. I think it closed 1989. It was owned by Jaime and Gertie Book, and I've heard that nobody that went in there came out without purchasing something. The staff were very, very persuasive, let's put it that way. In the doorway of Book's Fashions, it was one of the 2 or 3 places in Sunderland where people arranged to meet somebody, and many a person was stood up standing here, or standing next to Mackie's clock as well. So there'll be some sad memories there. So many people will remember probably Sunderland's most popular toy shop, Joseph's. It was here in the 1960s, it later moved, but the company started off in the 1880s. And during the Second World War, it used to be along Union Street, opposite the station. Many of you will have seen that picture when the station got bombed in 1940. A coal truck went through the front of Mr. Joseph's window. And there was some debate about who was going to pay for this, and certainly Mr. Joseph wasn't going to pay for the removal of the truck. So I used to love coming here in the build up to Christmas. So I'm glad that Hill's Bookshop has been remembered in the name of the Arts Centre. This is a very, very popular bookshop along with Arrowsmith's. It started off again down High Street at the junction with Nile Street. Sometimes in the old days you get a book token for Christmas, maybe £1. I mean, that was a hell of a lot of money. You get maybe 5 books for £1, but you should take an eternity to choose which 5, so you spend a lot of time in there. If you're interested in the old shops and stores of Sunderland, I heartily recommend this book, Sunderland Shopping Heritage by Philip Curtis. If you don't know Philip, he's one of the main people of Sunderland antiquarians. This book's it's a little bit old now, but he's written another book in collaboration with Alan Brett about stores and coffee bars and garages and all kinds of things. He opens up, he takes you on a journey down Foret Street in 1900, and it really brings to life the sights and smells and sounds of all the different shops.